M.Sopek. I am CEO of Quantum Blockchains. I am also somehow connected to Technical University because I am the chairman of the University Council of that school. So that's not necessarily executive branch, but somehow like a supervisory branch of university. And I try to engage myself with different things. I am an entrepreneurial scientist. Before that little startup, I had a company that I led into public state on the Warsaw Stock Exchange. So I was always connecting business with science, and my science path started here at the university and at exactly the same department, teams, as we call it, physical, technical, and mathematics, and applied mathematics. So I am very happy that I was invited here. It's a great privilege to me. Okay, guys, I will be speaking today about quantum and post-quantum cryptography, and what risks, what opportunities, controversies, and what is the path for something which we call quantum resistance. Mariusz, I'm sorry. Okay, it works. Okay, sorry. That didn't work for a moment. Synopsis of my talk today is first that I will tell you about the risks that we have to our digital world because of quantum computers and AI, which I will stress many times in my presentation. It's not just quantum computers that are risky, and how we can mitigate these risks. I will try to present a view on the high level view on cryptography and actually show what is the difference between algorithmic and physical cryptographies, which is extremely important for this post-quantum or quantum-resistant era. And in that context, I will first describe post-quantum cryptography and then quantum cryptography. And I will also cover official reactions of governments and institutions that are responsible for cybersecurity in our world, where we have a lot of controversies to such level that the situation right now is fairly complex. When one asks a simple question, what we could do to protect our digital world and our digital secrets, that's not easy answer, unfortunately. And I will sketch a little bit of path forward. This will be mostly related to perhaps my own work in this startup, but also it will tell you a little bit of the challenges that are still available. And I usually speak too long, so I put my timer here. If I still have time, I will tell you this last little thing, other application of quantum communication, because there is a lot of extremely interesting things in quantum communication that go beyond quantum security and quantum resistance. So I have a few slides from our research on that, but I'm not sure if I will be able to cover them. Okay, so what are the risks? First and foremost, it's extremely interesting to notice that a very serious organization, Cloud Security Alliance, which is far from hype, has published some time ago something which they called Countdown to Y2Q, year to quantum. If you remember, we had Y2K, year to 2000, where the IT systems were endangered by the simple change of the dates, okay, in multiple records in the databases. And that was nothing compared to this danger. Now, of course, we have very peculiar understanding of Y2Q because we do not know exactly when is this Q. Okay, K was clear, it was 2000. When Q comes, nobody knows exactly. The estimations are between 4 to 15 years, and research Professor Yoshikawa is doing is actually advancing that as forward to that date, which is good and absolutely necessary thing. But unfortunately, people on the other side of this barrier, where they think about security, they are not that quick. So that's something that is extremely dangerous. So why it is that crazy is because, I mean, the consequences of Y2K were still minimalistic because they were only related to the format of the date in particular records, where date were written in a short format. Now with Y2Q, the consequences are catastrophic because if, let's assume that some of the Western world enemies, I don't want to name, I don't want to go politically or geopolitically in this presentation, but let's assume that they have a quantum computer that breaks our cryptography we are doomed. I mean, we will not be able to make secure transactions on the bank, or our computers will not be able to present themselves using machine identification mechanisms. Blockchains will stop, everything will be collapsing. Of course, one thing that is very important to understand is that this danger on cybersecurity does not come from hackers sitting in the basement, and doing some harm. This danger is unfortunately possible for huge organizations, usually government organizations of those countries who are having enough of capacity to build cryptographically relevant quantum computers. And there is also wide unknown. I mean, technology now is in a very, very speedy flux and the changes. And there is known factor that AI is as dangerous as quantum computers. Like, let's come to Professor Ishikawa's slide. When AlphaGo, DeepMind created AlphaGo and made Go win with humans, made the machine win with humans. Imagine this complexity, combinatorial complexity of a Go game is much higher than combinatorial complexity of our algorithmic cryptography. Of course, it is not the same what is functional or algorithmic complexity. So I'm not saying that the same algorithm that was able to win the game with Go would be able to break the cipher. No, but I'm simply saying that before AlphaGo made this thing with the unsupervised learning with AI, the sheer measure of complexity was such that everybody was telling, no, computers will never be able to do that. Okay, everybody remember these stories, and it was broken. Okay, so I really think that protecting our secrets through new forms of cryptography is important, not only because of quantum computers, but because of unknown situation where we have superpower AI, and Professor Ishikawa research is also going into that direction with the more powerful standard computers. That I simply understand that it's time to go and time to act. Now, many people are putting these risks in this regard, and that's really unserious. Why? Because there is some very simple reasoning, which was started by Professor Michel Mosca of University of Waterloo, which is expressed in a very simple Mosca theorem or Mosca. Oh, that's in Polish partially. I'm sorry, I had this presentation in Polish, didn't convert fully to English, but some part is in English, and it's pretty obvious what it is. So Mosca theorem or Mosca inequality says a very simple fact. I mean, if you have X, something we call shelf time, which is the time you need to protect your secrets. And if you have Y, the migration time from the current cryptography to any form of quantum resistant cryptography. And in these two times add together, this they are measured in years, of course, and we go beyond Y to Q, then we are in trouble. And yes, that must be clearly stated. We are in trouble because just X. Banks have X sometimes for 30 years. 30 years, okay? Small companies working in the market have that for 5, 6, 7 years. Migration time, that's unknown, but it is usually at least a few years. Americans now assume that they will be migrating to post-quantum cryptography, as I will say later, until 1935. So they give themselves 10 years. If you add these times together, you are absolutely landing in the period where the quantum computers are existing and working and are really endangered. The another thing that is extremely important now, and is a fact known from intelligence reports from NATO, from America, is that some countries, again, not naming them, have the procedure which is called SNDL, store now, decrypt later, or retrospective decryption. So for many of these organizations, people, is not important. They do not see today what we have in these encrypted databases. They don't care. They still steal them, okay? They still get them. Why? Because they know that in a number of years, they will be able to restore these secrets. And these secrets that are restored 10 years from now are still dangerous, as we know from multiple cases in the global stage. So once again, why I think that AI is also a dangerous agent here is that it can help in crypto analysis. It helps today. It can accelerate brute force attacks, protocol analysis, automated vulnerability detection. And then we have adversarial AI attacks that started when the growth of generative AI has been so important recently. Now, there is one really ominous study that was made by Facebook R&D. It's called Facebook Meta Research. They used AI, actually they used a large language model to show that post-quantum algorithms, the one that are think of like secure, which I will be talking later, have vulnerabilities. Basically, they showed how to break potentially one of the post-quantum algorithms using generative AI. So the situation is really peculiar. Now, why this is the case? Why do we have such a situation? The situation is for a very simple fact that the foundation of our digital security today is based on algorithms. So it's mathematics, which is applied in cryptography, is fantastic, but it's unproven. So we don't have a proof that these algorithms are truly secure. We have conjectural security, so we think that they are secure. And just to recall these basic primitives, as we call them in cryptography, we have symmetric cryptography, which takes the key and encrypts the data. And then we have asymmetric cryptography, which are important for digital signatures, key exchanges, where we have public and private keys. Sometimes this is called public key cryptography. And we have digest functions, or something we called hash functions, which are used for signing documents, okay, and then encrypting the hash. So these three basic cryptographic primitives are all based on a pretty simple math that is behind, and that's a foundation of our security. These cryptographic primitives, these three basic primitives, they have the evolution into much more primitives. These primitives are called the basic operations that are quite isolated and quite well defined. So for example, of course, digital signatures, key exchange protocols, message authentication codes, zero knowledge proofs, commitment schemes, these are extremely important cryptographic primitives that are of fundamental importance. Like, for example, oblivious transfer and zero knowledge proofs are absolutely central into our privacy protection. When, for example, the European Commission now endorses the opening of the data for market, like they open the banking systems for business using this PSD2 directive. Now there is this data directive that opens that. But assumption is that our private data will never be sold, will never be disclosed. And for that, there is a recommendation to implement something like zero knowledge proofs or commitment schemes or oblivious transfers. If these basic primitives are broken, then these guys are broken too. So we really see the danger. And the most funny story on the quantum side is that we have only two or just two algorithms that are so dangerous. And the most fantastic thing that both of them were invented before any quantum computer existed, right? So Shor algorithm is the exponential acceleration in factoring of large numbers. So it can attack RSA, which is the fundamental digital signature algorithm, ECC for elliptic curve cryptography, and Diffie-Hellman for key exchange. And Groover algorithm is not that fast. It's just quadratic acceleration. But imagine what really we see. If we see quadratic speed up in database search, this is enormous. This is not a small thing. And what we claim is that while this Shor algorithm literally breaks specific algorithms, the Groover makes them weak. So basically, with Groover, we can search the space of potential space of the encrypted messages, and actually weaken the whole algorithm, or in the case of hash, we can decrease collision resistance and pre-image existence. Basically, it means that we can somehow faster find the, for example, two strings that give the same hash. Okay, how dangerous it is, I do not need to tell you. So this danger is really important. So now, in essence, why RSA has such a weak point? That's very simple. I mean, the RSA, as you know, is based on an extremely simple mathematics. It's the integer exponentation modulo. And actually, if we factor the modulus used in that algorithm, we have the ability to find a private key given a public key. And basically, that is the end of the secrecy, right? If we can do that, that's of course the inversion of our RSA function. So it's no longer a trapdoor. Okay, it's completely invertible, and we have no security. And that's was 1996. Okay, remember first quantum computer by Huang Chen, I think, 1998, right? It was in some American institute. Okay. So that was 1998, 2 qubits quantum computer, and this algorithm was in 1996. And what is the genius in that algorithm? Genius factor is that Shor found that there is I mean, it's very known fact in algebra, okay? But he discovered again that mathematical equivalence between problem of factoring and the task of finding the period of specific function is exactly the same problem. I mean, isomorphic problem. So basically, instead of brute force factorization, we can actually find a solution to Fourier transform and find frequency, I mean, the periods of this function, and that maps back on the factorization problem. So acceleration is really exponential, and using this algorithm, we can break asymmetric cryptography. Today, there are some simple algorithms that break, of course, short, I mean, the factors are short numbers, so they are not big numbers, but that's only a function of number of qubits and the number of gates, basically quantum volume, as we call it, not necessarily number of qubits per se, but quantum volume in general, that gives this kind of the thing. If someone of you, I will make this presentation available through Mariusz and the organizers. There is absolutely fantastic part here, very simple algorithm, short algorithm explanations. I love particularly this one explanation for dummies. These books, Something for Dummies, are absolutely excellent, and I'm not ashamed to read them. Recently, there was Quantum Computing for Dummies, and that was one of the best books on quantum computers I ever read, I think. So that's also this explanation is great. And when you go to IBM Quantum, you can actually run short algorithm already on IBM Quantum machines. So that's a very real thing. Now, what happens in this space is breathtaking. Like this guy, Oded Regev, who is actually the cryptographer behind multiple post-quantum algorithms, he showed that we can still speed up algorithmically short algorithm. And he offered a version of this algorithm that is quadratically, I mean, square root faster than original short. Okay, and that gives additional speed up to potential number of qubits and number of gates, quantum volume. So nobody should really sleep quiet when we see such a thing. Groover is different. Groover for search is based on the amplification of specific desired quantum state, which corresponds to the sought through number or sought through object in the database. I mean, we search for something, we create an object called oracle, and oracle is a function that we put into quantum algorithm, but its function of this oracle is to actually see what is the correspondence in the real classical database. And the Groover algorithm is constructed in such a way that using quantum superposition, it causes all the states to cancel out but this state that corresponds to the data we look for. So there is extremely simple explanation here, but I love the most. Oh, again, that is warning that it weakens the security. For didactical purposes, pedagogical purposes, I love this part, which is absolutely fantastic. It's actually published properly. And the analogy is this. I mean, if we look on the classical search, we could imagine that we have ladybug that tries all possible paths in the labyrinth. Okay, so we have single bug that goes and tries to find the path. The quantum algorithm is such that we have a colony of ants, and we put this colony of ants at one time on this labyrinth. And I do not need to tell, it's very simple to imagine that one of the ants can find the path. Okay, so of course I say that in this lecture in a kind of a simplified way, but this publication is very serious about this analogy and shows that really there is something like that. Now, from high-level perspective, you could see that these quantum algorithms can attack most of important quantum cryptography primitives, actually 4 of 7 basic primitives. And Grover, the other part of these algorithms, can weaken the security of protocols based on the other primitives. So basically, we have the weakening of security of all the system, like cloud services, blockchains, machine identity, our access to critical information, and that's a really serious thing. My company is called Quantum Blockchains because we started as the company that wanted to protect blockchains from that. I will not be very, verbose about that unless I have time. Okay, so but I see that probably I will not. But why it is important? Guys, blockchains is a structure that lost trust today. Okay, we know all these financial problems of FTX and guys in prisons, and all these crazy things and funding the drugs and whatnot, and perhaps even terrorism sometimes. But blockchains are also excellent technology. Why it is excellent? Because it is one system where in one place you have all cryptographic primitives working toward the stability of this distributed database. It's so central to our thinking about the information itself. I mean, being distributed, being verifiable, trustful information, that is very crazy right now that blockchains lost trust because of the lost the trust of people who misuse them for personal gain. That's normal, unfortunately, in the culture. But I only wanted to tell you that impact on blockchain is huge, and that's what we tried to do. Okay, so what kind of countermeasures and remedies we have? Basically, there is a whole domain which is called quantum-resistant cryptography, or quantum-resistant cryptographies, because they are not one. And I would like to start from making really a clarity in that, because that clarity is not used where I can be. Oh, sorry. The button for laser is it has button for laser. There. Okay, there. Okay, sorry. So basically, I don't want to go to the top level of this science, which is called cryptology. Just to mention, cryptology is not only for cryptography, but also for cryptanalysis, for breaking. And there is a very important part. To make this secure, we need strong cryptanalysis as well. And then we have this cryptography, which on the top level is divided into 2 branches. One is called computational security, where we use algorithms to protect secrets. And that will be classical cryptography as we know today. And this post-quantum that I will tell you about a little bit more. And we have physical security, which is based on the quantum properties of photons, light objects. And this is very important to understand that when we later use post-quantum cryptography and quantum cryptography, these names are not really right, because this is physical, this is algorithmic, okay? And that tend to be forgotten. So I wanted to make clarity about that and make it extremely clear. Now, there are 2 distinct features of these things. Once again, quantum cryptography secures communication by utilizing quantum mechanics to encrypt and transmit data in specific way, which I will tell you in a moment. So its foundation are in physical processes underlying the communication, while post-quantum cryptography, which is still based on algorithms, but algorithms that are deemed stronger or are thought to be stronger, is still based on exactly the same principles that it was for classical cryptography. So there is no difference from the big picture perspective. Now, with post-quantum cryptography, which I will now present a little bit, has an extremely strange feature, is that we do not know whether it is really secure. So the security of post-quantum algorithms is based on conjecture that for now, we are not able to show that quantum computers can break it. Okay? So it's not a proof that they are secure. It's a conjecture that we do not know of algorithm that will break it. Okay? So this is a little bit crazy, and that creates a lot of troubles right now, which I will cover in the next part of my lecture. Now, despite that, there is a fantastic development behind that and a fantastic new math. Basically, we have like 5 basic classes of new algorithms or new math that is, well, some math is very well known for hundreds of years, like modular algebra, for example, but applied in a very ingenious way. So we have module lattice-based algorithm based on the lattice theory. We have multivariate quadratic equations. We have hash-based, I mean, algorithms based on these hashes that we discussed before. Code-based actually, they were correcting codes that happened to be also a very interesting source of the asymmetric algorithms, and isogeny-based algorithms. And isogenies are basically maps between different elliptic curves, and they also have a feature of being highly asymmetric. Now, I will only have time to tell about 2 kinds. So one, the most important, module lattice, it's based on the mathematical operation on highly dimensional lattices. So you have integer lattices of horrible number of dimensions, like say 500, 700 or more. And basically, there is certain problems in such lattices, even if they are integer lattices that are hard, or actually they form this trapdoor, have trapdoor functions. So on one way they go easily, and another way is very hard. So for example, SVP, finding the shortest vector on the lattice, SVP problem, for a given lattice is a hard problem. And you could imagine that on the simple 2-dimensional lattice that should be easy, and it is easy, but on a high dimensional one is very difficult. I remember absolutely fantastic picture where 3-dimensional lattice was shown to a model of snail, and this snail was asked, was like a tale, like a fable, to find the shortest vector. It was very easy to see that even on the 3-dimensional lattice, for some objects like snail, which is 2-dimensional object, normally 2-dimensional animal almost, it's very hard to find it. Another one is CVP, its closest vector problem. That's finding a vector lattice closest to a given point. So you put a given point, and the task is to find such a vector. It's also very difficult. And the most recently explored and used LWE problem, learning with errors over modules, is algorithm-based, or actually problem is the solving of linear equations that are noisy. So you basically introduce some random errors into these equations and still try to solve them. So that's called learning with errors. And this LWE has become a choice recently. Also, we have these hash-based algorithms, which are pretty easy to imagine on the surface, because, I mean, you take a hash, so you have another digital object, and it's very hard to get from the hash to this original object, as we know from hashing, right? So that was idea behind Lamport signatures, very simple 1-bit signatures, and they worked. And now there is one algorithm, which is called Sphinx, that combines these hashes into literally digital signatures. Of course, reality behind the real math is highly complicated. There are some super theories behind that, and the Merkle trees, and some one-time paths and whatnot. So I have no time, of course, to cover that thing. Now, the good question when we discuss this is this: can computational cryptography truly exist? I mean, as I said, we have no proof, but the question is, can we have a proof? So fortunately for us, the answer is yes, we could have a proof. Just recently, literally, I think 2-3 years ago, two young cryptographers, that's beautifully described in Quanta magazine, very popular article, Rafał Pass and Liu, they proved that Kolmogorov complexity, you know, this old statistical Kolmogorov Russian probability theory theorist, he defined the complexity of a string as the length of shortest possible program that produces the string. And they found, these two young guys, that Kolmogorov complexity in some sense is isomorphic to existence of true one-way functions. So basically, if Kolmogorov complexity is proven as existing as a true complex thing, and so far it is proven, they found a way to map that to trapdoor functions. So theoretically, we know that cryptography, algorithmic cryptography is possible. There is nothing quantum here, nothing physical, as you see, right? But the funny story is that there is not even a single algorithm built according to Kolmogorov complexity thinking. So despite the fact that this theory has been used to show the existence of the true secure algorithmic cryptography, we still do not know how to even make it from that kind of math, right? So the situation is really amazing. However, why we still play with post-quantum, having all these problems? The nature is very difficult for us because, as you will learn in a moment, quantum cryptography does not give us asymmetric primitives. Quantum cryptography gives us only symmetric algorithms, an ability to encrypt something. However, in our digital world, we need digital signatures with Diffie-Hellman key exchange and all these things where you have public and private keys. And there is some research right now, very early research with quantum cryptography potentially could do that, but nothing is set in stone yet. So we have no choice. Like it or not, we need to update our existing cryptography to post-quantum, and we should not ask these questions that I ask here as scientist, but that's absolutely no choice. Another little stone in this comes from the author of post-quantum cryptography, Daniel Bernstein, who in an absolutely fantastic blog post, like a PQC for developers, shows and asks the question, can we really trust NIST, who is working on post-quantum, showing that 48% of all algorithms submitted that were broken, and in the last round, 36% was broken. And he says this mantra, let's always wear our seatbelt, okay? So his seatbelt is that we should go hybrid. I mean, have post-quantum, but also have still classical cryptography, and that's his seatbelt. Now, to add the additional element is written here down in this slide. There was an algorithm Psych, which until July 2022 was one of the candidates for the standard. It was announced 5 July 2022, and 2 weeks after, two cryptanalysts, cryptographers from Leuven University in Belgium broke that algorithm on this plain laptop, okay? Somehow, that was the most shocking thing because Psych was deemed as an abstractly secure algorithm made also in the same university partially in Leuven. And they broke it. And it was, of course, removed from the candidates. Despite all these problems, we have actually extremely important time right now. See the date, it's just 1 month ago. Post-quantum standards were finally announced. NIST, which is the most important computer security agency on the world, every other agencies in Europe and I believe also in Japan and other countries are looking at what NIST is recommending. They approved 3 standards. 2 of them are based on lattice-based, and one is for key exchange or key encapsulation, and another is for digital signature. and the third is based on hashes. And so see, only 2 mathematical models from these 5 that I showed were used in standard because they couldn't verify security of the other models yet. There is expectation that until the end of the year, they will come with a 4th standard. But to be frank with you, I was observing this domain closely because that's very important for our startup. That date, August, was still like 6 weeks past the deadline they set on themselves in the years before. Okay, so they were late by 6 weeks with announcement. They were checking and checking if they really safely can do that. And we will simply have to leave to see the effects. I mean, the effect could be good. Effect might be tragic if somebody comes and says, "Oh, the lithium is broken." Okay, module lattice is broken. At that moment, it's not only a problem of fact that some quantum computer will come and break something. The problem is all these legal machinery and IT recommendations that are coming after these standards. Okay, if somebody from you remember the change from DS, digital encryption standard, to AES, that was huge work for cybersecurity people. And if that happens now, we may have a lost time. So that's really crazy. Okay, so now let's go to quantum cryptography and to understand why it is of difficulty to implement, but fortunately it's secure by the definition. So in quantum cryptography, we always have a very strict separation between quantum channel and classical channel. And quantum channel, and we should remember that as a principle, that is only good for key establishment or key distribution or key exchange, whatever you call them. Quantum cryptography shall never be used for actual encryption. And that's an error that is coming back and back and back. I spoke to some military people in Poland. Oh, this QKD is so fantastic. Let's our message be encrypted. And that's impossible. That's against the rules of entropy and everything in the scientific foundations of these things. So we have always quantum channel and classical channel, and that's a very important part to understand. Why we need single photons in, or something that is close to single photons, or some quantum objects in that kind of communication for keys, is that very simple picture. If Alice wants to send the key to Bob using quantum objects, and there is Eve who eavesdrops on that and tries to read something, she basically changes the state of a photon. So if they are really single photons, okay, if we have no pseudo single photons, if we have very proper setup, then the reading of these photons by Eve is actually discovered by Bob, because quantum states change, and very specific logic in protocols that allows us for that by some relatively not complicated reason. Now we have 2 kinds of realizations of this QKD. One is the fiber optics over fiber cables. And as for today, well, there's some research showing 800 kilometers, but the practical maximum limit is potentially 200 kilometers. Most devices that are on the market today, I will show you them, are up to 100 kilometers today. But we have also free space QKD, which goes and sends photons over space, for example, to satellites. And here we have a maximum distance of 3,000 kilometers. The first experiments made by Chinese, by the way, was 1,200 kilometers. And now with the progress by ESA, European Space Agency, we can expect maximum distance to be much deeper. We need single photon sources. And why I cannot go into all details of these single photon sources in this lecture, I just list what are kinds of these. So we have weak lasers, usually attenuated lasers. We have single atoms and ions that can create single photons, quantum dots, color centers, and some nonlinear processes. So we need these single photons, depending, of course, on the particular kind of quantum key distribution as an important part. And we also need a very good detectors. That's why I was asking about your research. And in some sense, these detectors are even more important than sources. Now, these short distances can be overcome by some device, which is called quantum repeater. But I would like to tell you that conceptually it's simple, it's based on entanglement. So basically we entangle two streams of photons with each other, and we somehow using this entanglement pass the quantum state to the another path here. That conceptually is simple. Experimentally in labs it is done. Commercially not available yet. Okay, it's so difficult to do that it's very hard to imagine. So what we do right now, we have sorry, this PowerPoint overlapped it not properly, but anyway, there is a more frequently used repeater, which is called trusted node, where we actually have Alice talking to not Bob, but something called B1, Bob1 in the repeater, and the repeater has another copy of Alice, so to speak, but communication between them is a classical channels. And it's no mystery and not secret that all these successes in China, joining Beijing and Shanghai, are based on that kind of repeaters. And so one is this state of technology, but unfortunately there is also political reasons. Chinese were quite clean and quite open about that. In one paper that I read, they say, okay, this quantum classical repeater trusted node is safe because we do not allow anybody from our enemies to go there and read that. But they also said that in case of the danger, the authorities can go there. Okay, so this is a specific repeater in the specific geopolitical situation. We would like to be careful about that. Well, I claim right now that it's possible to build secure safe node by doing this in the complete isolation from any network. So if we have something we call air-gapped repeater, which is not connected to anything, then we could claim security of that and expand the distance of QKD. Basic QKD are divided into two kinds of protocols. One is called discrete variables, where we have some state-like polarization of photons, which are used to encode information. And we have CD, continuous variables, where we use something like, for example, quadratures of electromagnetic field and coherence in these fields, coherent states or squeeze states. And basically, these are two existing forms of technologies today. When we go down to the protocol, I will go to how really we do this transmission. The first and outstanding work was done by Professor Charles Bennett. And I can tell you, I'm very proud. I met him 1 week ago in Gdańsk, and I had a chance to speak for more than 15 minutes. Extremely bright guy, despite his age. And he invented in '84 this ingenious algorithm that is based on the principle of prepare and measure. So Alice prepares specific information using two different basis sets that are not orthogonal, and Bob is actually measure that. And there is a specific procedure that allows for this agreement on basis first, and then agreement on keys and amplification of these privates, as we call. Again, it's not possible to go into details. It's a very simple algorithm, by the way, on the conceptual plane. Another great author of this kind of thing is actually Polish Professor Arthur Eckert. He was known very much in Asia because he was a founder of CQT in Singapore at National Singapore University. I met him there as well, so that's extremely bright guy. And by the way, it's maybe a rumor, maybe gossip, but he and Bennett were nominated to Nobel Prize, according to some very well-known sources. So that's a very good thing. The word that Eckert done is ingenious because he used entanglement. And entanglement is working in a different way. So basically, with his protocol, we have a concept of shared randomness. So we send entangled photons to the two ends, and before that, nobody can really read that. Nobody can read that. Once we measure, when Alice measures or Bob measures, when we have through entanglement shared randomness. Okay, so randomness is important here, and when we can share it, we can basically create a cryptographic key out of that. We have a lot of variants in that space. So we have, do I have still time? Because my 45 is coming close. Mariusz, can I still speak? Okay. Stop me because I am. Oh, you see, that's my timer. I should stop. But I will try to speed up. So we have much other methods for doing this kind of a combination of this quantum state, like time beams, where I have early and late beams, and they also can be entangled. They can be in superposition, and there is specific methods that are using for encoding. We have also something which is very popular in Toshiba. It's called coherent one-way protocol, which is based on coherent states of light. And coherence monitoring is also used for finding the security of the communication. We have also something very popular in some circles, DPS, differential phase protocol, differential phase relationship system. Basically, what we do here, we have the phase relationship between particles. So we use phases of photons instead of the polarization. And eavesdropping detection by observing the phase coherence is also the mechanism for discovery that attack was attempted. There is also fantastic work on multiple key exchange. Again, sorry for my slides. I should really use PDF as you advised, but okay, anyway, I cannot change right now. So we have this conference key agreement protocol that was invented by Italian scientist Grasselli, and that allows for exchange of keys among multiple participants. There is a very well-known experimental setup to do that, and a very good theory based on Greenberg-Holt-Zellinger states, showing that it's indeed possible using entanglement in these quantum states to share keys among multiple participants. Now, coming closer to the end of my presentation, I wanted to tell you that QKD is very much industry right now. It's not a joke. There are some real companies building that, and I put on the screen only those that are partners to our startup, not everybody, okay? So just a very simple selection. I have one partner in Switzerland, one in India, one in Australia, and one in Israel, and all of them are building real QKD that we can buy. We can buy is a good wording here. Every single pair of these devices, guys, is about $200,000 or euros, that doesn't matter. The cost of QKD is enormous. It really goes to something like a 250, 200, 190. Only Heka Security from Israel, they made that a little bit cheaper for about 100, but it's still a huge cost. So we wait for another revolution that will come very soon. In the beginning of 26, in January, a new satellite, Eagle 1, will be launched by European Union, by ESA, European Space Agency, in a sense. And that will be a quantum key distribution satellite device, which we can use for QKD communication, for sending quantum keys among different peers across European state or European Union, okay? And of course, the project is highly confidential and will be used by security agents later. But in the beginning, it actually will go to the public. It will be very public. Documentation is already available, so we can really prepare ourselves. Just 1 year, so it's not too much time to prepare ourselves. Now, as I said before, quantum cryptography is only key exchange. So what's next? I mean, if we have key, what we can do? We must encrypt the data. We must encrypt the data that goes into databases, the data that goes in transit between points. And for this, we need encryptors. And the paradox is that this part of quantum cryptography exists and is very well designed. It's not very expensive. Like, for example, this American company, Engage Black, that's a company, creates Blackdoor OPS, which costs just $5,000. The other guys here are a little bit more expensive, but not as expensive as QKD itself. And I'm happy to tell you that in our small company, we interface them all, okay? So we have a pretty very well-defined model to work with them all. So that part, classical part of quantum cryptography is very well-defined. There is also a very interesting path to speed up that whole story by going something we called quantum cryptography migration system, where instead of QKD in the beginning, we used QKD emulator. And that's something that we invented in our company. We have patent application. Well, we have accepted patent by EPO already published. Published means accepted, but if it is patent yet, I don't know. I don't remember all these procedures. It's accepted without problem. And that design also was built by us in prototype version, and it works. It is being sold right now for clients that do experimentation. It's much, as you can imagine, much cheaper. Okay, I don't want to go into commercial part of in this talk, but it's available, and it's 100%. That's important. 100% compatible with QKD on the protocol level, and 100% compatible with QKD on the quantum entropy. As you remember, we have two parts of the QKD. One is entropy, randomness, shared randomness, or just pure randomness. Another is the quantum exchange. We do not make quantum exchange. We use post-quantum algorithms to make the exchange, but the whole setup simulates QKD to 100%. So that's very easy to use for experimentation, for migrating to quantum cryptography. That's our patent application. And I will end my talk by telling you about official reactions and controversies that we have. So despite these problems with post-quantum cryptography, quantum cryptography didn't have easy life. Back in 2016, National Security Agency in America wrote that NSA does not recommend QKD. Okay, there is a lengthy justification about that. Then British NCSC, which is a part of government communication headquarters in Britain, in 2020 almost repeated this thing, saying that NCSC does not endorse the use of QKD for any government or military applications. Okay, so that was shocking. And that was followed by this year, 4 cybersecurity agencies in Europe, like German BSI, French ANSSI, Swedish military and civil security agency, and I think Netherlands, they created a position paper in quantum key distribution that was also negative. So that was a horror, companies like myself and other people, but it's also objectively strange, right? If we have such a situation with post-quantum cryptography, why they criticize that? That's unknown, to be frank with you. So we started to write our response. I still am writing that because of having other focuses, of course, to preserve the life of startup is very hard to write. But anyway, we write that. European Commission recently, that was in April this year, actually made a step to somehow come against this negativity. They simply published a very important recommendation on post-quantum cryptography, which actually in this case, this post-quantum should be meant quantum resistant. And they basically mandate using hybrid schemes that combine post-quantum with existing cryptography or quantum key distribution. So actually, EC started to somehow work toward the potential progress in that space. And September 6th, guys, just a few days ago, I found that extremely important for the whole. So that's the Quantum Gov, which is also a very important part of the American National Quantum Initiative Advisory Committee. They wrote a huge blog post and some initiative and some documents actually supporting quantum communication, including QKD. So that's very big change. I was in March in Oak Ridge National Lab and was speaking about that, and they were waiting for American authorities to come into that, and they came just as here, which is strange because on the legal side they were very active. Like, for example, see, there was a Congress Act in 2022 on Quantum Computing Cybersecurity Preparedness Act, okay, in the Congress. And this act actually even put penalties on federal officers who are not implementing something, according to another document, which is called Memorandum, NSN, National Security Memorandum. So that's really amazing what's going on in this space. EU was a little bit, as you heard, a little bit more equated into this. And we have EU Cybersecurity Act in 2019, which actually made a very strong role of ENISA, this is Organization for Cybersecurity, And this organization is very much behind quantum resistance right now. And Europe also found that a lot of, I will go to that previous slide in a moment, quite a lot of initiatives like Europe UCI, European Quantum Communication Infrastructure. So here are quantum computers, Euro HPC, high performance computing, and here is QKD and all these things together. Now, this slide that I missed, I wanted to only tell you that if you look into global quantum efforts, you need to be surprised. The public sector is Japan has about 700 million. It was 2023. China 15 billion. Okay, and America only 3.7 billion, which is a little bit misleading because in America there is a private sector as well. But these things are quite troubling. Okay, so we also do something in Poland. We have quantum cluster. Our university belongs to that, and we are very active in that space. I skip our plans because my time is ended. I also wanted to tell you, because we are in this university, that one of the initiatives of my startup actually and the university is creation of quantum cryptography evaluation laboratory, which is in process. We are not yet having even money for that, but we are building that for years to come. Okay, I don't have time for other applications. I will share the presentation. There are some interesting slides which I could not cover in my time. Thank you very much for your attention.
You have short question.
Okay, so the post-quantum cryptography, but it's based on assumption that it's only Groover and Shor. However, there might be better quantum, like yes, there is discussed about two-way quantum computers in theory are able to avoid any problems. So is there any preparation for better quantum computers which are able to solve any problems? Okay, so is there maybe any preparation for possible future better quantum computers like quantum MP solvers, for example, quantum cryptography, maybe based on piece-based problems, cryptography?
Well, these algorithms that we know, Shor and Groover, they act in the big theory of cryptography as a signal that basic primitives can be broken. However, when we make protections, we do not particularly address these algorithms. Okay, we try to build algorithms that are indeed NP or exponential P hard, and that's the base, and that's somehow parallel to thinking if that or another algorithm is used to break it. What we need in this field is the assurance that there are hard problems, and the only research, as I told you today, that I know and I think it's known, is this Kolmogorov complexity. But again, to build an algorithm based on that thing is extremely hard. However, to answer your question, if we go into that direction, it is possible to indeed find post-quantum algorithmic algorithms that would go for other kinds of algorithms as you just named them. Okay, absolutely. I mean, I don't say that only Shor and Groover are dangerous. That's kind of if you have a quantum speed up AI, okay, and we know that AI is dangerous, then the answer is crystal clear, and we need such complex things that even super powered AI on steroids using quantum is not able to break them.
Can you make any comment on the way quantum computer and the way it enhances? Because Jarosław is now starting this project two-way quantum computer, and is referred to existing algorithms with this your approach.
So basically, in theory, it allows for exponential speed up. So like post selection, but we found this penalty for this of post selection. So yes, but in theory they could put up any problem, but there is a lot of work for us, but it looks promising. Well, there might be different approaches also to attack against problems. So I think we should be thinking about it and maybe try to protect some possibility.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a bigger thinking that despite all this discussion and this theorem, okay, this Kolmogorov thinking, I am standing on this side that we need hybrid security. And in our practice, in my startup, and everywhere I do and work and try to get grants or investment or whatever, I do not promote purely post-quantum or purely quantum. I promote hybrid solutions, okay? This device that we have, it's actually hybrid. It uses post-quantum cryptography today, okay? So that's a hybrid mechanism. And I feel that that path is right protection, because it will protect from both of these dangers that you suppose and it's existing right now.
I guess we have a coffee break, so let us meet in 10 minutes. We present a presentation by RQ and company. So let us go to coffee break. Thank you.
Can I ask a question online?
Yes, please.
I just raised a hand, but
Sorry, I didn't notice that. I was not looking into the the screen of Teams. So please go.
Yes. I have maybe a naive physicist question. So it's very interesting that there exists two concepts: purely quantum cryptography and so-called post-quantum cryptography. But our reality, what we know for now, as it is for now about our reality, it has a dichotomy, quantum classical. So something which is not classical is quantum, and vice versa. Something which is not quantum is classical. In such a sense, it seems that if one has quantum cryptography, which is purely quantum, and then one introduces something which is called, say, post-quantum. So according to this dichotomy, it should be classical in a sense. Or you understand, yes. And my question is, so, and on the other hand, we know that quantum algorithms usually use classical segments, for example, measurement, because it's a measurement with classical device, macroscopic device. So it's a collapse of wave function to the desired quantum state. So quantum, that means that quantum algorithm should contain elements of classical approach, or as you mentioned, for quantum cryptography, a classical channel is critical as well.
Sure.
So can it be that post-quantum cryptography is a way to exclude quantum part from quantum cryptography, to turn back to classical things? And this could be just because so the far-reaching predictions of efficiency of quantum cryptography can be uncertain just because it's difficult to develop on quantum algorithms. On the one hand,
I think that the reason for security and all this thinking lies on the different plane, and I try to show this. We speak quantum cryptography, it's quantum, it's single photons and so on and so forth. But remember my classification. We said there is algorithmic cryptography and physical processes-based cryptography. And when we speak this physical based cryptography, at this moment, we do not say yet quantum. By the way, there is a method that was patented by one of the members of our quantum cluster here in Poland, which is called OKD, optical key distribution, which is physical key distribution based on the photonic science, but it's not quantum. And there is a proof that is much safer than post-quantum. And also, there is a somehow conjectural proof that is not as secure as quantum key distribution. So, you know, the difference between two approaches is not very much on quantum classical dichotomy. It's on the dichotomy of using algorithmic part, which comes back to Enigma, to, you know, Vinegar cipher, Caesar cipher, and all this game of, you know, finding solutions to the algorithms on one side and using physical properties on the other side. And this is where the difference is. So yes, I could potentially imagine such a situation in which a QKD would evolve into something where it has more classical operations, like today when we connect two data centers using quantum key distribution. 90% of technology is classical, and only key exchange is quantum, okay? So, you know, if that is done in the physical way, that means it is not subject to this cracking, okay? Because it's physical. It's in this moment, information, as Professor Eckert says, is physical. Well, I do not buy this definition very much in the philosophical plane, but that's very important in this understanding, okay? So that's my answer. It's rather physical versus algorithmic than quantum versus classical. Okay.
Okay. And that regulations from USA. So can it be they just try to protect something just because they don't understand properly the quantum, all the subtleties of quantum things?
Well, see, that would be far-reaching, you know. You may think that way, but I was privileged to be in Oak Ridge National Lab, which has a fantastic influence on those agencies. There are top level people in that group understanding that on the deep theoretical and practical level. So I cannot say that NSA or NIST doesn't understand that. They understand differently. Still today, migration to post-quantum is feasible because it's just a change of algorithm in your phone, computer, on your server. Migration to any physical security, quantum key distribution or any other, is much bigger attempt, you know, much bigger project. And this is why they were opposing QKD and trying to put people on algorithmic, because that can be done relatively simply by changing algorithms, which is still hard because these algorithms are demanding, you know, complicated, blah, 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 and behave differently. But complexity of quantum key distribution is much higher. This is why I invented this migration path, you know, this little device that takes you faster to accelerate this process. But globally, if you look on this, they are not people who don't know. They know the complexity of going into the good solution, and that's high complexity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. After